Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the OpenText Live Webinar series. My name is Gretchen Wurgis, and I am the Senior Partner Training Manager for the Global Partner Program here at OpenText. And this part of our OpenText Live series, we invite our very valuable solutions extensions partners to work with us to do presentations to our customer base on very valuable solutions that are part of our offerings. And so we're very excited today to have Answer Modules with us to do a presentation on how to deploy Module Suite on a containerized cloud environment and other version 3.2 updates. So we'll get started there in just a moment. Before we do, I'd like to remind everyone that we do record every webinar in this series, and you'll be able to find that webinar. You'll first receive an email within 24 to 48 hours with a follow-up that includes a link to this recording. But you'll also be able to find the recording at opentext.com/events on the historical tab. First you'll see all of those events that are upcoming, so please be sure to take a look at that to see what might interest you. But then you'll also be able to see on the historical tab, as I mentioned, all of the recordings from previous webinars. There's a lot of great content there, and encourage you to check that out. If you have a question at any time during this session, we just ask that you put it into the Q&A panel by clicking on that icon on the top right-hand corner of your screen, and put your question there, and we will get to those as we are able. If you think of a question after we've concluded, or you just want to reach out to us to give us some feedback on the session, or if you have a suggestion for a topic you'd like to see covered in a future OpenText Live webinar, please reach out to us at partners@opentext.com. You'll also be getting some contact information from Answer Modules if you'd like to reach out to them further on this solution. All right, and without further ado, I would like to hand it over to Paolo.
Thank you, Gretchen. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, maybe even good evening. I'm Paulo. I take care of the sales and strategic alliances here at Answer Modules. And on the line with me, or better yet, on this webinar with me today is Patrick Vitali. He's our CEO and CTO, as well as Igor Zotic. He's our Senior Delivery Manager. And so, as Gretchen mentioned, as you probably know, the objective of today is to really show how we can, or how you can deploy our flagship product, Module Suite, on a containerized cloud environment, as well as provide some other updates, some significant updates that are coming out with version 3.2 of Module Suite. So before we go into the actual presentation, etc., I would like to leave this up just for a few seconds. I think that should be enough time. So like I mentioned a few seconds ago, really the objective of today is to both explain and illustrate how and why Module Suite can be deployed in a containerized environment, but we also want to demonstrate. So we also want to provide a live demonstration of that. The way that we thought about structuring the agenda or the webinar today is really just a quick introduction to who is Answer Modules and what is Module Suite for those of you that don't know us and don't know our product. And then I'd like to spend a few minutes very quickly on the idea of containerization, what that brings, but more importantly, what is it that that comes with Module Suite 3.2 that makes this type of deployment feasible. But obviously, the main star of the show will be the live demonstration, and as Gretchen mentioned, at the end we will be taking Q&A. So with that, maybe just a quick words on who we are. So for those of you that don't know us, we are a product company. We are based in Switzerland, and we are focused exclusively on providing solutions for the extended DCM and Content Suite platforms. At the moment, we have a quite, I'd say, interesting user base of over 250,000 users worldwide, with a little over 100 organizations that are leveraging and trusting our technologies for various, say, needs and use cases. But we also have an extensive network of partners that are knowledgeable on our product. With OpenText, we have a very strong and say significant relationship. We are part of the Solution Extension Program, so SOLEX for short. And within the program, we are a multi-platinum tiered partner. We have been recognized by OpenText 3 years in a row as a partner of the year, as well as innovation technology partner for EMEA. And we've also been certified by OT for cloud, actually for a while now. That is for a VM deployment. Obviously, we are working towards a certification for containerization as well. So that's enough about us. What is it that we provide? What is our solution? So our solution is called Module Suite. As I mentioned, it is for the XNDCM and ConSuite platform, and really what it provides is really an easy way, an efficient way to accelerate and also enable digital transformation initiatives on top of the XNDCM and CSP platform. So at the end of the day, what Module Suite is utilized for by, like I mentioned, hundreds of organizations is really to implement tailored business solutions, tailored business process, personalizations of the platform, etc., all on top of XNDCM and CSP. Obviously, if you are starting to utilize XNDCM and ConSuite as a hub for building business solutions on top of, that also opens up new use cases for the platform, and therefore also maximizes the internal investment that you've made from your EIM or Con Services investments. The really cool thing about Module Suite is that it really makes it easy to build and deliver these tailored business solutions, but also makes it easy to change them, maintain them in the long run. That's why we always say that with Module Suite you can deliver future-proof solutions, but they're also cloud ready. Obviously, that is the main interest of today, I believe. So that is very high level what is the Module Suite, but I think we should shift gear and go into actual, like I mentioned, main star of the show, and that is the containerization and how Module Suite can be deployed in that sort of environment. So obviously, cloud, it's nothing new. Containerization has been, let's say, on people's radars for a few years now. And what containerization really provides, what does it respond to, why is it significant, is the fact that it responds to 3 essential needs. So scalability and flexibility. And that really, these needs really comes down to being able to adapt or adapt to a pretty significant accelerated pace of change within, let's say, a business environment and just overall commerce. But then also the fact that containerization really responds also to the need of having better, higher performance from applications. And this is, again, to meet more higher expectations in terms of what applications can be delivered, and the fact that obviously the more we go forward, the more business functions will be managed through IT and applications in general. So with Module Suite, or better yet, the Answer Modules ethos and the Answer Modules R&D team, we always want to stay at pace, or let's say up to speed with what the market is requiring, what's happening in the market, in the overall IT landscape. And that is why with 3.2, we have worked, or the R&D team worked on making it possible to install and configure Module Suite on a containerized environment. So with that, I just want to go very quickly over what is it of Module Suite 3.2, the improvements, the features that actually make it feasible and simplify this type of deployment. First and foremost is that changes to configurations are much easier now 3.2, but more importantly, you don't need to interrupt or restart the system when you are actually making modifications to the configuration components. We've also obviously worked on portability. So we now have the possibility of exporting the configurations from one environment to the other pretty seamlessly, and more importantly, without any sort of manual intervention, so no manual task. And the downstream effect to this is that you can facilitates and makes it easier, speeds up also the creation of new environments as well. We've also introduced the business administration permissions. Naturally, not all users can have system admin privileges, so introducing this business admin permission does provide a higher level of flexibility on what users can actually perform on the system. And last but not least, we've improved the management of the content script volume. So for those of you who don't know, a content script is, let's say, the scripting component that comes with Module Suite. And this improvement to the content script volume really comes down to simplifying the navigation within the content script volume folders. And therefore, the downstream effect of this is also simplified installation, as well as a simplified configuration process of the content scripts. So that is, some of the macro areas that the R&D team worked on to make it possible to deploy Module Suite on a containerized environment. There are also other improvements and new features, functionality that we've introduced with 3.2, and we will be discussing these in later on. First and foremost, we've made enhancements to the PWA forms. So essentially, it is our solution, or better yet, the Module Suite features that allows for forms to be utilized on mobile devices, even in offline scenarios. We've made improvements to the REST APIs, and as with all releases, we've made countless fixes and just general improvements overall. And with that, I'll hand things off to Igor for the first part of the live demo.
Thank you, Paulo. Good day, everyone. Can you go on to the next slide, please? Okay, so yes, again, good day, everyone. So the first thing I would like to share with you is the simplicity on how we can create a containerized environment, considering with an OpenText content server, or rather an extended ECM suite platform, together with any additional module that you would be needing to interact with within content server. So as you can see, to just create a new environment containing all the software that is needed is just a matter of potentially 4 commands to be done through a command shell. So what we need to do, the first thing is that we need to, let's say, tell the system that we wish to have a specific version of content server together with a third-party application, in our case, the Answer Modules Module Suite. To do this, what I would need to do is to extend the original image of the content server with the image of our module. So to create one single environment, one single image containing everything inside. And this, as you can see here, is just a matter of executing one simple command. We will see in a few minutes also, let's say, those configuration files that are needed to prepare this command, and you will see that it's really something easy to use and very simple to make in place. The second thing, once we have created this image, so we have our containerized image, what we need to do is that we need to tag the extended image, so to be able to upload it in our repository that will be used in a second moment or whenever it is needed to be able to create new instances of our content server together with the module suite. Obviously, once we have tagged this image, so we have given it a unique ID, let's say, we will upload it into our external repository. In our case, we are using the Docker Hub. And also this, as you can see, is a very simple command. And at that point, whenever we need a new environment with the content server and the module suite, we just need to run our last command, which is the installation of our implementation with the module suite. how much this takes? Potentially, this now becomes a matter of minutes. So let's say that the first thing, besides the simplicity, is the time saving that this type of installation of let's say application can have. Just to give you an idea, if we start from the beginning and up to the installation, we did this today to prepare an environment for you, and it took us maybe a little more than half an hour. When we know that if we would be using the traditional methodology for installing a new environment and installing all the additional modules and patches, etc., can take obviously a certain amount of hours instead of just a few minutes. Okay. The last two comments that we have here is actually are just a couple of comments that we can use to keep track of the ongoing installation of the containerized OpenText. So the first one, when we're getting, let's say, the ingress, actually we are retrieving the software load balancer DNS that the system has created for us in the moment that in which we have installed or launched, let's say, the installation of the new content server. While the last instruction, the get pods, is just a matter of verifying and keeping track of the ongoing process of creation and installation, initialization of the environment so that we know when it is ready. Okay, so let's have a look now, for example, as I was saying, on the different configuration pieces that you need to put in place to be able to prepare this environment. So I'm going to share my, okay, I think you should be seeing my screen right now. So as you can see, to be able to prepare the environment to have a containerized content server, it's actually pretty simple. Well, the first folder that you see here is the extend folder. This extend folder, which is being created through a specific configuration file, and actually the structure in which we will be creating our additional modules. So for example, in our case, what we have done, we have inserted inside the module section the 3 modules that are part of the contents of the module suite. So to be able to add these elements within the original installation of the content server. Okay, and then just by simply adding the modules that we want inside this structure and executing that command that we saw before, this will automatically generate a let's say an enhanced, a customized image of the content server that will then be, let's say, pushed or uploaded within your repository and afterwards be utilized for the installation process. Okay, and obviously the modules that we have here are exactly the same modules that would be available through the System Center. So you don't have to do any specific operations to retrieve them, but you can just get them through the System Center. The other portion of the installation, or let's say the configuration for the containerized environment, is this OpenText Extended ECM configuration. This portion here of the tree structure obviously can be downloaded from the knowledge base, because this is what OpenText gives to the let's say its users, its partners, to be able to prepare an installable third-party module for the containerized environment. And obviously also this element here is being separated based on the needs. So the first element that we're going to see is within the charts. The charts actually are the different components that are being used within the environment. So we have the archive center, we have the content server, OTDS, etc., etc. These pieces can be customized by the end user depending on the need. So for example, in our case, what we have done is that we have inserted within the admin settings XML that, if we just to give you an idea, looks like this, which it contains all the elements that are part, for example, in the administration pages of the module suite, for which we can preload, so pre-configure the modules that will be installed within content server. This means that when I'm going to prepare the environment, when I'm going to launch it for the first time, everything is going to be already configured for me. So again, I'm saving a lot of time during the installation, because before what we had to do is we go in, we install the modules, we go into the configuration and start filling in all the elements. So for example, putting in the license, setting up different parameters, etc., etc. This step here can be directly implemented through simply preparing a proper XML file. XML file that can be obviously downloaded directly from the content from a previous version of your content server, so that you can have the base XML to which add your information. Okay. Once you have configured, let's say, all the different elements that you wish to use inside your environment, what you will need to do, you will need to configure the YAML file, so what type of configuration you wish to have in your cluster. In our case, we have used the Amazon Web Services environment, so we have uploaded and created our cluster into the AWS. And to do so, we have, again, edited the file that is given by OpenText, by the system, and have just added the portions that we need and which were useful for us. So for example, we have inserted the specific DNS that we wish to use for the different components of the environment. We have added, obviously, I'm not going to show you the real one, but you can add the master password. You can tell the system from where it will need to grab the different types of images that will be used for preparing the environment. So in our case, obviously, what we have done is that we are using for the base components, so let's say Archive Center, OTDS, etc., the OpenText registry, because we do not need to use any customized element. Instead, when it comes to content server, what we're going to do is that we are going to get the image from a different repository, which is our, let's say, Docker Hub system, in which we have our enhanced image, which is the one that we would like to use. So at the end, once we have configured all the elements and we have done everything that is needed, as I was saying before, we just need to launch one command in which we are saying install the specific environment using these elements as configuration files. So at the end, once everything is ready, what happens is that you have a perfectly working environment that responds to a DNS, which can be actually recalled as any other content server environment which you have worked so far. And once I log in, obviously I have everything in place, and by going into the administration pages, so for example, I wish to go into the answer modules environment, going into the base configuration, as you can see now I have already my license applied and all the other, let's say, information that was inserted within my XML configuration file, so that the system is already fully configured for any type of extension that we wish to use within the module suite. Let's say what we're seeing here is the new version of the module suite, and as you have probably noticed, there are quite some differences compared to the other versions that you might have already seen. So the first important thing is that right now, when you connect to the base configuration, the system will already inform you if the first initialization, let's say, of the content script volume has been done or not. In case, you will just need to click on the import, which will automatically bring you to the new version of our import library section, informing you which is the mandatory step to be done initially to be able to continue, and all the additional options that you have within the system. This said, I'm going to leave the word to Patrick, which will continue with the live demo, explain a bit more technically what we're looking at and how to use it. Patrick.
Thank you, Igor. So you should be able to see my screen. And as Igor mentioned, so this is basically an environment that we just bootstrap, and Model Suite has been already installed and configured. So everything that is, say, base configuration has been already imported. So now with 3.2, it is possible to export and import the content of the base configuration into utilizing the standard XML mechanism that I will show you later. And that simplifies this kind of a deployment. So as Paolo mentioned, so 3.2 is a big step forward in improving the way Model Suite is supporting this kind of deployment. We have worked in order to streamline as much as possible the installation of the suite. So in this environment, it is a fresh installation. And as I mentioned, the server started basically already configured, and the system is basically recognizing that I don't have a content script volume properly configured. So the content script volume is the volume, dedicated volume that we use to manage all the different functionalities of Model Suite and to tune the Model Suite configurations. So what basically the system allow me to do is to go into the new version of the import tool, in which basically we have simplified and reorganized the interfaces in order for you to better understand what are the different functionalities that you can utilize with Model Suite, and to import just the one that you actually want to utilize and you need to utilize. So the first initial installation of the library will basically set up the basics element in the content script volume that are the minimum number of elements required for the Model Suite to be fully functional. And the important thing is, as mentioned, we have streamlined significantly this process. So as you will see later, not only this is a faster process, but is also a much simpler process. So you no longer have to check yourself what are the conflicts in the system, and creating and bringing online a fully configured new version of Model Suite is basically just this single click. So as soon as the library is fully imported, what we will have here is an environment in which all the different tools are already working. So this is exactly the moment. So the system informs me that the first initialization has been completed. I can just reload the pages. And as you can see here, what we are listing on this page are the different additional functionalities that you might want to leverage and that Model Suite provides you, and different tools that you can import and start working with. At the bottom of the page, we still have the sort of conflict resolutions. So if you have customizations in your volume, if you have created your own widgets, if you have additional modules that can import new widgets or new snippets, they will be available here. But the very interesting aspect here is that with the minimum elements in the volume, I can now work with a fully configured, as I mentioned, Model Suite version. So if I create my first script, for example, I will see that the editor is immediately available and functioning. So all the snippets are here and everything is correctly working. And the same goes for the beautiful reference framework and the smart page. So I create my first template, and associated to this template, I will create a view. So a beautiful web form view. I will be able to just open this view and start working with it. So so it's very fast and actually very easy. The base configuration is also an important aspect of this functionality. So we have simplified and this kind of deployment. So what I can do right now in the base configuration, I can dynamically change the configuration. So I can, for example, I don't know, change the way the system works. So for example, I can change the fact that the enabling where is it? I can enable the audit trail for content script execution. And whenever I save the new version of the base configuration, the system is basically not requiring you a restart anymore. So changes to the configuration are now much faster, and just few of them, very few, basically two, actually require a system restart. The other important aspect is that we have created different levels of permissions that allows the system administrator to grant access to different configuration elements to users that are not required to be system administrator. So as a business administrator, I can have access to many different functionalities that are enough for me to work proficiently with the solution. Going back to the tool, we'll show you that we have, as I mentioned, many tools that are now explained. So the different folders that you can import. So for example, if I want to work with PWA, I can just import the PWA support. If I want to create a new extended ECM and connector, I can create and import the extended ECM, and Training Center now became part of the standard volume. So if I want to import Training Center and start working with examples from our Training Center, I can just import it. And once they are imported, what you can do is just to go into the specific content script volume folder, and the content script volume folder used to work exactly as you expected. As you can see now, there are less, let me say, forms and less elements. So for example, we are no longer importing all the different snippets, and this doesn't mean that you cannot work with them. So if you want to import, or if you want to override some of the widgets, you can still do so. So if I, for example, in my form, I create, I don't know, a text input, and I create on the fly a new field, and I created it. So this is still absolutely working. But if I want to customize that widget, I can do so. I can, for example, go into version 4, look for my text input. The main difference is now that you have to import only what you actually want to override. So in this case, I'm importing the text input, and the system will basically inform me now that I have imported one object. Still, I haven't override anything, so I've just imported into the system. But now I have the possibility to customize it. So I can go into the library. I can look at the object, and I can eventually edit it with the standard editor. So I can, for example, if we look for the input, I can put some text here, saved it, and if I reload my view, that information will appear probably in the source code or something. Not yet, because I probably took it in from the wrong place. So let me check it again. Input, text input, here it is. And if I saved it in the source, there is obviously this error because this has not been associated with anything. So, but you still have the possibility basically to configure it if you want to do so. So override the single component as per your need. As we mentioned, other improvements. Training Center is now part of the standard tools that comes with the solution. So let me remove this local override. I delete it. Okay. And so from Training Center, you can utilize Training Center to look at the different example and test the different functionality and get accustomed to the different functionalities of the solution. So if you want, for example, to look at how standard action works for beautiful web forms, you have just to download the examples. The system will set it up the example on your behalf and with explanation, and then from the pages you will be able to test what it means to work with these specific functionalities, and you will be able to say, okay, this is the way this functionality works, and to learn on how to improve your skills with Model Suite. One of the new functionality or improvement that we bring into this version, as mentioned, is related to PWA support. So we improved basically the way library version 5 of Forms work, in particular when forms are created for offline usage. So if I take again one of this form and I create another view, so this one I will delete it, and I will create a new view. So say view, and this time I will utilize our form builder. I can switch it to version 5 of the library, reload it, and I will clean everything. I will just bring a text input here associated with the field and select the PWA template, and that's it. And now I can create my form, make form, and as you will see, while you are using the form, you will have with the new template, you will have some advantages. So I need to create this script, otherwise the system is not gonna work. Signer save. Oh, I didn't associate this. Okay. So save. And now it should work. Okay. And so the improvements are related mostly with the usage, as I mentioned, in offline mode, where you basically can manage the upload of several documents, and I can upload all these documents, and they are basically persisted into the on the device, and I can review them as needed. I can rename them as needed, and I can decide what to do, and then I can provide some input information and save everything on the device. So whenever I come back on here, I will have my record with all the information and the input that I have saved. And when I'm ready, I can just synchronize everything into the system, getting rid of the local information saved on the device. And the nice thing, as we mentioned, so this is a fully functional PWA. So if I take my PWA template and I copied it into, for example, the place we were working, so enterprise workspace, and I create a copy of it. And the only thing that I need to do is to configure now the PWA application. So I can go here and very easily just substitute the form ID. And then what I can do is to get this ID here. And if instead of opening the form with this endpoint, we open it with the PWA endpoint, so as API PWA form, and this is the form that we want. Okay, so as you will see, the system is now prompting me for installing the application, and I can install the application, and the application got installed directly on the device. So I can now work with this application. If I am a user that is using a mobile device, this application got installed and available directly from within the device homepage with all the other application, and I can work with, as we mentioned, with it even if I am not actually connected with the system. So we mentioned improvements in the way the content script volume is managed, as you will see, as you've seen. So in a few minutes, I can have an environment fully configured and that I can utilize to start working with. We mentioned the improvements to PWA. We mentioned the possibility and improvements of the base configuration that now no longer requires a start. I mentioned that we can export the base configuration. So if you now go into the import and export administration tool and you look for example, for exporting, you will be able to export your entire configuration or jar portion of it very easily. And this will generate the XML file that Igor utilized to create the fully configured environment a moment ago. So this is an XML file that you can modify and you can reuse again to bootstrap many different environments in really a matter of minutes. The interesting part for us of this kind of deployment is that obviously as a company that performs many projects and perform many different tasks, for us is a great advantage. So being able to quickly bootstrapping a new environment, for example, for development, quickly bootstrapping a new environment for support purposes, for testing purposes. So being able to create an entire cluster in a matter of a few minutes of work is a tremendous advantage for our daily job, and I think that will be for yours as well. And with that, I think that we cover the essentials of the new functionalities that were introduced in version 3.2 in order to improve the support to this kind of deployment. Probably the last one that I'd like to show you is again the possibility of assigning the business developers, so the business administrator, sorry, the rights to perform several actions on module suite. So in this interface, you can see that under business administrator, you will be able to provide business administrator the rights to manage the configuration, for example, of their volume, manage the configuration of the other piece of configuration elements of module suite. And with that, I think that is now probably time for some question, if you have. I see that we have several questions already in the chat. I will try to answer them. So which configuration can be transferred from the environment to the other? So as we mentioned, the configuration is the base configuration. So anything that is related to the configuration of the single services, so the different APIs that you have installed in module suite, the activation keys information, any custom configuration that you might have utilized to create configuration profiles for your services. When will the 3.2 version be available? Will be actually released this week, as being will be published this week for the general public. For the form you created, you talk about persisting on a device. What did you mean? Can I use Model Suite to create forms for mobile devices? Is that what you mean by device? Yes. So when I was talking about the fact that we were persisting on a device, so what I meant is that with PWA and the use that we are doing with this technology, we were able to persist, for example, the files that we were uploading on the device. And this can be a phone or a pad device. We were uploading it and we were storing, persisting this information, the files and the records on the device memory. And again, this is also possible even if the device is not connected, because again, we are utilizing the device memory as a cache. And then we are able now then to synchronize this information towards a live system whenever the device is already online, so is already capable of communicating with the online service. It is a perfect solution for implementing any, for example, maintenance routines in which you go on the field, and on the field maybe you do not have a connectivity, and so you might have the task that you have to accomplish, documentation that are related to this task, and you need to collect some information on the field, maybe utilizing the device functionalities such as the GPS, the camera, the microphone, etc. And then whenever you are back with connectivity, you can submit this form and you can submit the data. And the submission can do whatever you need to do. So can, for example, create a business workspace, can start a workflow, can do anything that is done with the system. What do you think will be the biggest challenge for implementing model suite and containers and standard deployment? Let's say it's a very first one that OTPS it is doing. So the challenges, in my opinion, are not that big. So model suite is for long time, in my opinion, one of the most cloud-friendly solution. We stress out the fact so many times that with model suite, basically there is nothing to deploy on the server. So there basically no need to reach the server. And this is probably the biggest limitation so that you might have. With this version 3.2, we simplified further all the processes related with working with the solution without having to reach the system in any way, and with limiting the impact of any configuration changes. So I think that there are not really big challenges to be faced, and not much difference of working with model suite in any other kind of environment. What functionality is lost when using container? So there's basically not really, as I mentioned, a big difference between a container or non-containerized deployment as far as model suite is concerned. Any functionality that's improved or diminished with the container. So in my opinion, the scalability and the possibility of quickly reconfiguring the cluster and the possibility of quickly reconfiguring the load from the cluster is a big plus. I'm thinking, for example, on any. I'm not thinking about a SaaS deployment, but I'm thinking about an on-premise deployment that use this technology. I can easily rescale and quickly rescale the environment in order to support, for example, bulk operation that are, let me say, executed not so very often. So, and that is definitely a possibility that is now much easier to be maintained and achieved. There are no other questions, so I think that the floor is yours, Paolo, to wrap up.
Thank you, Patrick. Let me just bring online this last slide. So thank you very much, everyone, for your time. I hope it was a productive and interesting session for everyone. Obviously, if there's any questions that come up afterwards, or thinking about what you saw or heard today, please feel free to reach out to us, or obviously to your respective OT rep or contact. And we'll be more than happy to answer any questions or discuss specific use cases and see if we could work together. So with that, thank you very much on behalf of everyone from Answer Modules. Gretchen, I think we can wrap things up.
Great. Did you want to, there were a couple questions in the, oh, I see that we have answered them. Great. All right, so thank you again. As Paolo said, thank you for your attendance today. Keep an eye out for that follow-up email with links to the recordings. And as always, you can access opentext.com/events to see what's coming up, but also to see historical recordings like this. and refer back to it. If you need anything from OpenText, if I can help you out in navigating the links, or if you have a suggestion or feedback you'd like to provide, partners@opentext.com is our email address. And as Paulo said, you've got his email and other contacts there to reach out to them about this incredible solution. All right, so thank you so much for your attendance today and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.